All right, guys, we're going to take a look at numbers 170 to 161 in this video. If you've been with me, you've seen some games that I like, and these I like more, I guess. These are all pretty good games, but they didn't quite make the top 100. If you want to know about the top 100, check out the podcast first, and then probably in 2020, I'll put out my top 100 over here on the YouTube channel, because I know not everybody's a podcast person, but if you enjoy this, maybe you are a podcast person. So our podcast down below. Thanks again for like all the subs and thumbs. Like, you guys have helped our channel grow a ton in the last couple months. So if you're a fan and you're a sub, you really are a friend of ours. And we like to connect with you guys. So leave a comment. Fans are friends. Anyway, that's it, guys. Let's get right to it. Number 170. Number 170 is a game called The Resistance Avalon. So this is like the Resistance, but it's themed with the Knights of the Knights of the Round Table. So you're playing as one of the Knights of the Round Table. There's also some other kind of like secret roles in there, like Merlin can kind of know what's going on, but he doesn't want to get caught, so he can't be too obvious about it. But it's like basically this thing of your two teams. One's a smaller team of traitors who are trying to sabotage these missions. The other ones are trying to be successful and accomplish what King Arthur needs. So we're going to do a lot of voting and diplomacy kind of things to see who we think's traitors and who we think are the good guys. So it's really the mission part is very abstracted. It's like voting, yes, I think we should win or not. But then the parts before that where we decide if we want to confirm the team and how the team was selected and trying to just do all the deliberations to figure out who the traitors are really makes this game a lot of fun. It's one of the first like kind of hidden identity bluffing games that came out. And it still holds up fairly well. I will play this one about any time. A really fun game. And this one's better at higher player counts. So this is one that I think will play upwards of 10 people. And you'll really enjoy it at 10. So the Resistance Avalon. It's one of those games too that like you play it with a group 3 times and they've got it. And it's really fun. Maybe not the first time. So number 170 was Resistance Avalon. Let's move on to 169, which is kind of the same game. Hail Hydra. I didn't do this on purpose. Hail Hydra is a really good game as well, but you're playing as superheroes, and there's Hydra inside of this team of superheroes. So it's kind of the same idea, but instead of trying to just go on these abstracted missions, you're actually doing damage to bad guys, and the bad guys are going to damage the city. So it's a little higher than Avalon because I think the actual mission part of this game is a little more thematic, plays out a little better. Plus, man, who doesn't love Marvel, right? So you're playing as like She-Hulk and stuff like that. So pretty cool game that you're playing as these superheroes who have player powers. So you add player powers and then kind of like these missions that get more played out, but then keep a lot of that like voting, kind of putting cards into a pile in this instead of just voting thing. So it's just kind of cool to try and figure out who the traitors are in this one as well. I think at the core, this was definitely influenced by the Resistance, but it just twists things and does more of this like putting cards anonymously into a pile and not really voting on stuff. And then the missions are more played out and not as abstracted. So a really fun game, slightly better than the Resistance in my opinion. And I both are really good games. Again, if it's in my top 200, I like it. It's a good game. 168 is Western Legends. I like this game quite a bit too. I just do. It's a big sandbox game. You can play it so many different ways. So it's kind of hard to explain how you play this game because you can play it how you want to play it. You can get gold from gold mines and make money off of that. You can play cards and gamble. You can visit entertainers and get entertained. And you can... Yeah, if you played this game, you know, yeah, anyway. So at any rate, this game is kind of interesting because there's just so many different ways to play it, so many different paths that you can take to win the game. And like all done with this kind of cool deck of cards where you're using either the face value or the flavor on it, like the ability on it. And then you can use them for gambling too. So it's just like kind of a just cool game. Where you can make money in a bunch of different ways. And it feels like kind of the Old West where people were able to do what they wanted to do to kind of try and win. So a neat game. It looks kind of pretty on the table too. A lot of different characters you can play too with different abilities. And then you're buying gear to like power your guy up. So the Kickstarter edition of this has a bunch of stuff in it. It has just a lot of cool stuff. So and like this, one of the cool like things in it is it has like a general store that like holds your cards. It's like a 3-dimensional stand kind of thing. I kind of think that's neat. So 168 Western Legends, a sandbox game in the West. 167. I'm almost certain I'm the only person to put this game in their top 100, 200 because it's a dice rolling game. Like it's basically like you roll dice and move horses, and it's like just a crap shot if a horse is going to do well or not. And like in the most literal sense. So these horses kind of like get these like, there's races that come out, these race cards come out that handicap the horses different ways. So like the first movement they get might give them like 4 extra movement. So you're kind of trying to make bets based on that. And then also based on the idea that like you roll more 7s when you roll 2 die than you do any other number. So the 7s are usually like kind of almost handicapped. So they try and make the field as balanced as possible, but you're gambling, trying to win based on where you think these horses are going to come in, and it follows the rules of win, place, and show. So like it's just kind of a fun game, and it's like it's not great like by any definition of what a great game should be, but without a doubt, every time I play this game, I find myself standing up, chucking the dice on the board, and just yelling, like just screaming. So it's just like a wild time, pretty fun. And it's like Downforce with dice. Like, so the cool part of Downforce is that everything's balanced with those cards, and cars can sputter out over time. There's none of that in this game. You could roll 12s every time. What are the odds of that? Not great, but you could, and it'd be just bizarre. So anyway, this game is called Homestretch by R&R Games. Really fun. All right. I think I spit on myself there. Number 166 is The Godfather. The Godfather is a really cool game. I like it quite a bit. It's a worker placement kind of area control game. I've only played this one once, to be honest, but I liked it enough that it made my top 200. It's on my shelf. I want to play it more. But it's like kind of like a little bit of area control, a little bit of worker placement game. And it's mean and nasty, but play it with your kids because he'll teach them that they don't want to join the mob. And that life is mean sometimes, I guess. I don't know. A lot of people I know play this with their kids because it's just a fun game, and it's like that heaviness. The theme doesn't match the heaviness of the game, kind of too. But it's a pretty accessible game, pretty fun game. Just it's a fun game. So and definitely mean at times. So I like my co-host on the show loves this game. I'm sure it'll be in his top 100. He doesn't like mean games typically, so for him to be as into this game as he is pretty bizarre to me. So Godfather, Corleone's Empire, a late entry to this list too, because I just recently played it. So I think this one might go higher as I keep playing it. It really is a good game. So 166, The Godfather. 165 is Kanagawa. This is one where you're managing art school kind of, or you're a student at an art school, I guess is a better way to say it. And you have to kind of decide, am I going to use these cards to like better my art skills by placing them in the bottom row and flipping them over? Or am I going to use them for the painting value and try and make my painting better? And if you do too much painting and not enough skill building, you can't ever paint the best paintings. But if you don't do enough painting, the game's going to end and you won't have, like your painting as complete as you'd like. So there's also like kind of like a set collection, kind of like trying to place the paintings in the right way, and then also kind of a race to meet certain criteria. So like having a certain number of kites in your painting or having a certain number of trees in your painting. And so with that, like there's basically just these dual use cards, and then you're using these little paintbrush things that are kind of adorable to do different like kind of action qualifying things to paint certain things. So you need certain colors and certain techniques to like paint certain paintings that you have to have present in your tableau below the painting. So it's just kind of a balancing like how you want to use your cards. But then the other piece too is this has kind of got like interesting little auction kind of mechanism to it, where like you're taking a column of cards. So you fill up a row of cards, there's one row, and you can say, you know what, I want to take this column, and only you get one card, but you get first choice. But most people are going to say, you know what, pass, let's put another column of cards out. And then you start really seeing people say, those 2 cards are really good, and I really need both of them. So I'm going to duck out now, take these 2 cards and enjoy these 2 cards and use them the best I can. Everyone else can stick in. Then there might be 3 cards there. And so then people are going to go, you know what? Like, I really need these 3 cards, and I'm afraid someone else is going to take them before me. And then you get that 4th row out there, and people kind of are like, I don't mind that I get anything great because I need a lot. So it's kind of like balancing. Do you want the really specific things you really need and get less cards, or get more cards and just kind of things that you really enjoy? So, and can use best. So it's got that kind of cool mechanism in there as well. It's got a cool bamboo mat that you play out as a board too. Yellow games always are really pretty games and stuff with cool components, and this one's no exception. So Kanagawa. Villages of Valeria. This is a cool game. It's a set collection game, kind of like using cards for multiple purposes to try and like, it's almost like that thing in Imperial Settlers where you tuck cards to try and like get more resources to generate. You can do that with the cards, but then also there's like kind of like price for the cards where you're getting these values to put these buildings down and build a village. And it's real simple, a card game that feels like a board game, plays much more richly than it does. This is a daily Magic game. They just make some really cool games that people just don't play as much as they should. So this is one of them, kind of a like resource gathering, kind of building a village game. Pretty light, plays pretty quickly, but it's really fun to play. And it reminds me of seriously that thing in Imperial Settlers where you take the cards and get the resources and put the cards down. So it's almost like a really stripped down light version of Imperial Settlers that's not quite as mean as Imperial Settlers. So that one is Villages of Valeria. This is the other game from from Days of Wonder that is that like kind of deduction solve a mystery game. I think I referenced it in my last video. This one's really good. This one you're basically playing Guess Who meets Clue. So you're trying to figure out based on physical attributes of people who did this thing, which one of these monks is kind of guilty. And you have some monks that you know are the people that are vindicated. And so like you can ask things like, is it a fat monk? Is it a monk with a beard? Is it a bald monk? And it's kind of like a Guess Who kind of thing. So like you're trying to just kind of deduce based on physical characteristics who you think did this thing. And there's also like kind of almost a worker placement, like move around a board kind of element to it too, in order for you to get more information yet. So you're trying to solve this thing by doing a clue-like mechanism, but then also with doing a Guess Who kind of thing. And then there's a little bell in there too. So that's kind of neat too, that not many games have a little bell to call congregations to the sanctuary. So that's a piece of this game. Number 163, Mystery of the Abbey. My favorite clue-like game. Bunny Kingdom. This is a card drafting game. I'm not a huge fan of card drafting games. This one's probably one of the higher card drafting games I have on here. But basically you're drafting bingo grids and you're picking spots on this board where you're going to put a bunny at. And then you're trying to build these little cloisters of bunnies to produce a lot of different resources and have a lot of different spires in your towns. And you multiply them together. And you want to have 2 or 3, maybe 4 of those little like cloisters because there's only so many kinds of resources you can make. So the top end of the multiplying you can do on a huge cloister is like 5. And you could get a ton of spires, but you're still only going to get 5. So if you had like 10 spires and 5 resources, you're going to get 50 points. But if you were able to do like 6 spires and 5 resources 2 places, you're going to get more points, obviously. So it's like you're trying to just figure out how to best balance having a big cloister with a couple small ones or a couple good sized ones. Then there's also these like little like golden scroll cards that give you in-game scoring conditions that you can kind of have little goals that you're trying for. And there's little camps where you can temporarily take residence in one of the squares, but then later you're probably going to get booted out. But it's kind of a neat little deal with the whole Bunny Kingdom thing and just how it works. So that's number 162. 161, last one on this list. Istanbul. This game's awesome. It's like you and your family are going around town trying to complete some work to get rubies, I think it is. You can upgrade your wheelbarrow, which is kind of neat, like your cart, to do more work and more efficient work over the course of the game. So it's like got this like little player board that's like your like cart, and then you're out on these modular tiles and leaving behind family members. Then when you run out of family members, you got to go to the fountain. Like it's like that thing where dad puts his fingers in his mouth and whistles. I can't do that. And then everyone knows, oh, it's time to come home for dinner. You know what I mean? So like you go to the fountain and everyone comes to the fountain, and then you have a stack of people again and you go out and do it all over again. And you're just trying to figure out the best way to get goods and stuff in order to get points. So it's a fun little game. Pretty cool. And like, it's got this thing too, where like one of your family members is a real nasty man who goes to prison all the time and does illicit work for you, but then gets caught and gets put back in prison, which is just kind of a weird thing, but it mechanically plays out really well. This one won the Spiel, I think. So this is a game that I think is really good. It gets compared to Yokohama all the time. I think Yokohama is a better game, but they're not that same. So I think this one's worth playing and checking out, even if you played Yokohama and love it. Check this one out if you've never played it. So that's number 161. That's it for this edition of Joel's 100 Beyond 100. I hope these games are games that you've heard of or like, and maybe you do agree with me. If you don't, that's okay too. Leave a comment. Let me know if you think I'm crazy for putting things too low. I mean, it's my opinion, so I'm probably not going to change it, but I'd like to hear what you guys think about these games too. It's the fun conversation that makes this a lot of fun to go and do. So, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for the subs and the thumbs. As of recent, we've been growing a ton. Really appreciate that. And I've been Joel with Board Game Mechanics, and keep gaming.